All right, cool. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Regard to our situation of the deep dive for Kat. Now, Kat had a client who let her know that she wanted to stop working together. Case in point, also, not just stop working together, but stop paying ultimately, and hopefully that's okay, right? Unfortunately, because that is not what Kat had in writing as a possible option, it would mean that this client was kind of like in breach of contract, or not, um, shouldn't retain access. Like if it's true and this client ends up dropping off or is going to stop paying altogether, whatever it is that they're articulating, that they're not going to meet their end of what they agreed to, then logically the next thing in the process, as we demonstrate here in the curriculum for Bulletproof Dispute Blueprint, is that you are setting the right expectations of what this person needs to do. Now, before that happens, you need to make sure that the person understands you're on their side, right? That you're not the enemy and that they're willing to work with you. And so the way to do that is to get the person ultimately on a call. So here we have where this client had indicated to Kat, she didn't want to keep working together, and Kat shares that that person was a creative coach. Now, the reason why this is relevant is because this person said that she didn't want to keep working with Kat because she felt like Kat wasn't the type of coach that was going to be capable of helping her. So this demonstrates a value issue at this point in time, and it's not a logistical issue. Value issue meaning I don't trust or believe that your program's going to be able to help me, or that you are going to be the person to take me to XYZ result. So it's pretty clear here that when Kat wrote this part, that she was actually offended. The person had indicated, Kat would not be the person to help her achieve that result, because she said, the client in anyway, that she needed a coach who was an artist. So Kat asked, what is my solution? She shared that this person had started on the 17th of September, paid $2K. The second payment would need to be due very soon. As you can see here, October the 5th is when this is all happening. And so it's like 2 weeks or less, right around the time frame leading up to when that next payment is due. That's when this individual paying the high ticket investment is starting to reevaluate. Is this really right for me? Is this really the right option or solution to achieve that result? And when people have a disconnect from that being the outcome, or having a certainty that that's going to work out for them, then it makes sense that they're going to start to ghost you. It makes sense that they're going to start to vocalize that they are unhappy. So again, it's very important that if you run into a situation like this, where you have a person who vocalizes, I don't want to keep working together, I want to take a break, I want to pause, I want to quit, I want to cancel, whatever it is, or hey, I'd like a refund. In these scenarios, that you are trying to solve the root issue. You're not just simply accepting at face value what the person is saying, because ultimately your goal is to prioritize the relationship, put that first, and understand where is this person coming from. So I did give some advice here if the person had been checked in with, and what's the reason they need to possibly pause. What is it that was their circumstance? Maybe it's something situational that can happen as well. So again, you never want to assume, just like if you were in the inbox leading to a booked call as your main intention, you never want to assume what was the root cause for the other person, right? We always want to come from a place of curiosity. So because I don't advocate for refunds, I'm pretty strict about that, as you know, because obviously you're inside of this curriculum. I asked some questions to clarify. Kat shared a bit about what she did suggest, which was definitely yes for that person and her to have a call. She also shared that the client had emailed her also, and that the person said she didn't feel aligned with Kat anymore. Now the problem is, when somebody says that they don't feel aligned anymore, again, this is rooted in value. This is not a logistical thing. It's not like the person had said, I just don't have the funds, I'm broke, this is my last $1,000, or anything like that. That is not what was communicated. It was, you're the issue, or your program is the issue. So when that happens, if you are the person in this scenario, like Kat, for example, who this is happening to, you just want to come from a place of understanding and be curious about it. Now, when the person didn't ask for a refund, but they communicated that they're not really looking to pay the remainder of their installments, this is where having a follow-up call is really going to help, because it's demonstrating to that person, hey, I see you. I understand you're going through something. Let's go ahead and get back on the same page, see what that hurdle is. And then you, as the coach, consultant, whoever it is that, your role, you're doing the fulfillment or the delivery, it gives you the space to demonstrate in real time to that person that you are trying to repair something, right? Now, I don't know what transpired prior to this happening, but one thing is for sure, the client did not book the call with Kat, and it might be because Kat suspects that something she said may have rubbed that client the wrong way, okay? So again, this is where the repair attempt is important, and so she gave some context to what she didn't support, what she didn't recommend or advocate for that aligned or followed what the client wanted to hear. So it's not always about what we say. It's also going to be primarily about the way we say things that can influence people to feel if there is value there. So I communicated to Kat, it does seem like it's possible she's offended. So the best thing to do is have a call, that if the person is open to it, or you could reply to the email asking her if there's anything that she feels, right? Because we want to give control back to that other party, feels that you could have improved. So you're always working to keep improving that program and her experience. Even though the person didn't request a refund, you still want to try and resolve things. Okay, you never just leave it up in the air like, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll just deal with it when that happens. No, you always should be coming from a proactive position rather than reactive, responsive rather than reactive all the time. So when I've clarified here, did Kat plan anything that was communicated, so that since the person isn't going to continue to work with her, what does it look like? What's the continued access, or is she going to keep getting what's she going to stop, and were those stipulations conveyed? So because the final decision, it sounds like from the other person who we, up to this point, Kat still hasn't met face to face with yet, up to this point, she doesn't know, right? We're speculating, we're leaving a whole lot to chance, and that's not good. We definitely always want to be as proactive, responsive as possible, and not assume based on what somebody else from the outside is doing, when you could just simply go to the horse's mouth and ask that person. So that's what I had recommended, and it looks like the client was sent by Kat a calendar for them to have a conversation. She indicates that person didn't book with her, so I advocated for her to, again, just not be reactive about it. I modeled what she could say. Hope your friend is safe. Let me know if we can chat this week. And then just focus on, emphasizing those boundaries if that was what was necessary. Want to keep checking on that individual just like you would a prospect who ghosts you, or doesn't respond to you. And simply because we don't reinforce refunds or we don't advocate for refunds, just trying to get on the same page for that individual. Let me scroll down just a little bit here. So it looks like later, in the week, a couple days later, she had gotten a reply from this person. The reply ends up saying, "Good morning, Kat. I apologize. Work just called. I'm about to run out of the house. I'm sorry I missed our call. I know how annoying last-minute cancellations can be. Having said that, we can reschedule, but as I stated in my email, my decision to leave your program is concrete." So this person is saying, I'm not open-minded. I am not open. I'm not receptive. I don't have any interest in keeping working with you. So there's no hard feelings, because I appreciate you having started working with me. She says, appreciate you taking me on. I just feel like I rushed the decision, and I don't feel like your program is a good match for me. So because this person says that, then we have to accept they are not open, right? The door is closed. What that means, though, in retrospect, is if there was in the contract or the agreement that this client signed with Kat, if it was in writing, there's no refunds. Even if you don't implement, there's, not, if you don't implement and you don't get results, there's no refund. If there's no guarantees that were being marketed or advocated for or communicated, then again, that should match what's in writing. It should also match in writing that if the person doesn't pay in full, that they get access revoked. Like, these things should be black and white. There is no motion in there, just because it's business ultimately, right? At the root, yes, there was a transaction that occurred, but coming from a place of understanding, originally started before the transaction does, because you start with a relationship. And so if we look at it like that, where we're prioritizing the relationship, we understand Alexis didn't have any interest in continuing to work together, and she's not receptive, she's not open, then we have to accept that that is her final decision. But she needs to understand where we're coming from as well, that again, this is not an emotional response or a reaction. This is just a response that is in black and white, that was created to protect both parties prior to this, somebody having their feathers ruffled. And it is that if you don't pay in full, here's what happens. So anyway, she ends up asking, I was trying to look in the contract, see if I was eligible for a partial refund, but I can't find a copy. I will respond after work. So here she says that the person, canceled, and she asked for money back, and Kat, felt pissed off, and so she reacts, right, which is the opposite of what we want, which is too late, because by the time she shares it with me, she's already sent it, so it's nothing I can do. Like, there's no unsend option at that moment in time. She says, I'm sorry to hear you won't be able to have this call. Let me know if you want to have a call later. I have availability for after the group call. I remember you being really happy about working together. I told you I could help you start your coaching business. I still believe I can help you, and most importantly, I want to help you. I would honestly appreciate your feedback and the reason behind your decision. So she should have left it there, right? But she didn't. She continues on, which is fine, but she should have kept it there for the sake of, when you're in an emotional state, as an entrepreneur, when somebody's asking for a refund or something, but they are telling you that it's not you, and you genuinely are interested in hearing what's going on, then you should prioritize that to put the relationship first. Yes, ideally you would have a back and forth where the person understands you are trying to see things from their perspective before you lay down the hammer, before you say, hey, listen, I understand where you're coming from. I'm in your corner. Here are the areas where, unfortunately, I have to kind of reinforce those boundaries. So unfortunately, because both of these messages, paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, where she says our agreement clearly states you're not eligible for any refund, etc., etc., I'll let you read the rest yourself here on the screen. But because both messages are sent all in one email, it's very clear that Kat in this message is having an emotional reaction, not coming from a place of curiosity where she's truly trying to understand Alexis, whether or not Alexis is, what her feedback is, and also where she's coming from, and whether or not they can salvage or repair the relationship professionally. But just, hey, what's the reason for this happening to you, or you deciding to go in that direction? By the way, you're not getting your money back. What do you think? Like, there's a disconnect there. There's a lack of congruency in the way that these two messages go together. They don't mesh fully because we haven't reestablished the rapport. And so that is where part of the breakdown happens here. She ends up saying the person signed the contract for $4,000, but had already paid $2,000, right? Which she mentioned earlier. So that means that this person owes her money, not the other way around, where we can understand that that is accurate. Okay, we can understand that this is accurate if we are approaching this in a very black and white mindset. It's either this way or this way. The problem is when you are interacting with people don't operate in a black and white world. There's a whole lot of gray area that things can happen. There's a lot of nuance. And so because there's a lot of nuance and room for some of that, it would have been more beneficial to Kat to having sent it as two separate messages and detaching emotionally from the outcome here. So what I have sent Kat is now, here is my position. We have to wait for her to respond, but ultimately the proactive position is to send her a copy now of her signed agreement, then put the subject, first name, last name, agreement date signed, and then attach it and just send. Keep it simple. Hey, name, hope your wake day went well. Here's the agreement since you mentioned you're unable to find it. Shows your name, the date, and what was agreed regarding payments and the no refund policy. If you do change your mind for me to support and coach you, we would resume payments when you're ready. And then your name, So I have clarified for her, and again, this is going to go for anybody who watches this video as well. The thing is, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you legal advice. What I can reinforce or recommend is what works. Based on the feedback that I've given to other clients and how it's worked for me. So at this point, I have mentioned also that don't revoke access or use phrases that show we're pissed, because that's not really coming from a place of professionalism or business. But it's okay to be direct, and I'm not gonna suggest outright that she revoke her access to the program, because it would be like we're jumping 3 steps ahead. If we're going back and forth, this is conversational or dialogue, because let's say we are at in a situation where we're prioritizing a relationship, then and only then should we hear the other person's side. Okay, great, here's my thoughts, or here's what I have to say to that. Ask a question, or be open-minded and let that dialogue go back and forth. But if all we are doing is expecting a brute force approach, then don't be shocked when that person tells you you burned a bridge. Don't be shocked when that person gives you negative feedback. Don't be shocked when that person ends up filing the dispute ultimately out of spite. So there is room for improvement here. And I think after this scenario, Kat definitely has changed her approach. But unfortunately for a lot of people, you have to go through this scenario. But if you don't have a course like this, you have to go through these kind of scenarios in order to recognize what not to do. And so that's the whole premise of me doing these deep dives and getting this course into your hands, is that you don't want to have to learn the hard way, right? You want to learn the right way to do things. So here she has sent these messages to the person, message after message after message. And so these were also messages that were sent on her own accord. Kat's, as you could tell, Kat just kept sending these messages, and it's not the most healthy approach that I would advocate for a person. Now, I understand that it is an emotional reaction that can occur. Think of it no differently than if somebody were to break up with you, out of the blue, so you feel, right? Maybe there were context clues all along, or you had a really big fight, and then all of a sudden it's like the damage has been done, the person pulls away, not interested anymore, and then you get the other party who's just, sending a novel, like word vomiting basically by text. The only thing that does is push the person further away, right? Because it's clear we're talking at them. We're not trying to work through anything together to get back on the same page. So this is not an approach that I would recommend for any person who's taking this course. Being in the position that is proactive does not look like this. But Kat let me know that she had already sent these messages and also what they looked like. She said that I will send an email with the agreement, like what you said. She still has access to everything. Let's see here. She said if she doesn't, she can go. I won't ask her for money or something because she mentions a refund. I wanted to remind her of what we agreed. So I did advocate or recommend in the future a clause or a line about if the payments are incomplete, then program access is revoked within a certain time frame. That would be something I'd suggest. But we don't know what she's going to reply or what's going to be the outcome. So this is why it's important the process, be created, and we have to learn as we go, right? A lot of people, unfortunately, have to learn that way. And so I acknowledged that it wasn't a fun experience, but she dealt with it, and the email template that I had shared should be the last communication to her until she replies, right, to that client. So she was grateful, and then she shares again. Here we are roughly like about a week and a half later. Again, update on the person. So she says she followed my advice. She sent the agreement, and then she got ghosted. Now, I'm not shocked. Again, keep in mind, she was talking at the person and just, bombarding them with messages. And only question now is the agreement for to pay was 17th of September, and second one is automated. Should I let it be and automatically collect the second payment or cancel them? What should I do? So at the time of this occurring, another person was also in the inbox, not just myself. Here is the reply that she ended up getting. I apologize for the delay. If I'm being honest, I did a ton of anxiety about messaging you, which is part of the reason I know we're not a good fit to work together. Since you asked what changed, I wanted to let you know. This is a situation of not you, it's me. As I said previously, I was excited to hire a coach, but it wasn't really like, her having hired Kat specifically. Then she also shares she felt passionate, but she did not take the proper time to research or decide what was right for her, as far as coaching and balancing her art. She doesn't doubt Kat's program or abilities. She did a lot of soul searching, but she appreciates messaging her back, trying to keep me, but I do believe it's best to step away. So we have to understand that person is just giving a hard no. I'm not interested, right? So she has said profusely, it's not you, it's me. I just don't want to do this anymore. Thanks again. Let's part ways. So at this point, it would be no different than a person telling you to your face, I think you're a great person, but I'm not interested in seeing you again. You're a great person, but I just don't want XYZ thing, right? And so that's your cue after the second attempt to acknowledge what it is that person no longer wants, and then let's reinforce what those boundaries are. Okay, I understand that you don't want to continue working together, and here is what we have set up, or here's what we agreed to. How can we proceed, or how would you like to move forward from here, just so we're on the same page, And so Kat is asking, what about the second payment, because it's automated? Should I cancel it? And how should she respond? So my recommendation to her is that, which I would give to you as well if you were my client. I would end up advocating to you to let that client know what comes next, what is coming, what is happening. Don't let anything be a surprise. You should always be setting the right expectations. There's a phrase, always be closing. I think there's always room for you to say, always be setting expectations as well. So anyway, that was the first thing. And then this would create a potential chargeback, and she would need the documentation to present to Stripe or the merchant payment processor that she notified the client and that the client had signed the agreement and was unaware of what are those stipulations or ramifications, rather, if she didn't finish paying or if she didn't do XYZ thing. So before stating she wanted to quit. So then this is going to depend on the laws and wherever she's located, but also to let that client know that she is scheduled to be charged automatically because the agreed date on her contract was, and then whatever that is, it's in writing. So there's no feelings attached like, hey, I'm going to go charge you just because you wanted to quit my program. No. That is the wrong approach. We're not doing that. There's a harmony. There is a balance here. It's important you're enforcing what is in your contract or agreement. Yes, 100%. But it's also more important prior to that you have made every attempt, every effort to get on the same page with the client. And as you can tell, in Kat's situation, that was done, but not very tactfully. So I recommended, that she ask how the person would like to proceed. Now, if it were me personally, so I have shared this with her, if it were me personally, I'd take the first route. So I would let the person know that they were going to be charged and that this is because they still have access to the program. And the agreement states that they signed no refunds, and I understand that you don't want to keep working together, but this is the agreement that you acknowledged. And then I would document everything in order to protect myself, right? And I would mentally be prepared for that possible chargeback or dispute. So if Kat, which we know in this scenario, right? Kat is, as a person, at least during this time frame in her life, was slightly reactive. And so if that is true, if you are a person who is in a high emotional state when these types of situations tend to happen, maybe you take them personal or you freeze, then maybe you just save yourself the heartache, just refund the person and just consider it the exception, not the rule. But overall, you want to have a system or a process in place that you're going to follow consistently. And if you can't, then you need to delegate it to somebody who can follow through on that process. So I have communicated to Kat, that there are consequences to not paying. What do those look like? And so I've shared those with her that were relevant to the model in the program. She also indicated I will take option 1. Right? So Kat drew a line in the sand and made that mental decision. I'm going to accept that there is a possibility of a chargeback or a dispute. So then she ends up sharing here, that she was going through some stuff. Let me just fast forward. Okay. So here we are roughly about 2.5 weeks later. She shares that what the update is, that she had emailed her the way that I had indicated. She never got a reply or response, and then the funds got automatically withdrawn. But if Kat had sent the email in the way that we indicated or recommended that I did, then it would all be valid, right? Because at this point in time, it's like, hey, Aiden, I've sent you an update. You've been made aware. Not only did you know that the payment was going to come out, but also you had the copy of the contract. And so you had the space to review the contract as well. Not just the first time, but the second time I sent you the contract. In addition to the follow-up message when I indicated here is what's going to happen, right? So in addition to like potentially the DMs that she likely also sent, but we don't have a screenshot of those. So at least on 2 separate occasions, there is no room for an excuse where the person didn't know, didn't have access to the contract, or wasn't aware of something, right? So because that was shared, those pieces as part of the equation, and then the plan ends, and she says here she thought she wouldn't have to pay, and she blocked her, right? So she blocked her on social media. She blocked Kat so that Kat couldn't message her anymore. Today it automatically tried again, and so she got the payment. The payment went through, and then she got an email from that former client asking her, why did this happen? And the thing to know about people like this is that you will have, not just in life but in business, individuals like Kat's client who want to play dumb, and that's great for them in certain scenarios if they want to play dumb. The problem is that in business, if there's things where you're articulating in black and white what is going to happen, what's going to transpire, and when, and you've done all of your due diligence to set the right expectations, then this shouldn't be a surprise, right? The outcome shouldn't be a surprise. So I acknowledged what she said. I asked her to take a screenshot that the person had blocked her. She said that Moonclerk, I guess that's maybe a payment processor or some platform of some kind for the contract, emailed her that the plan was ended. So I'm not sure if maybe that's a comparable to Kajabi type of software or something. I don't know this one here, Moonclerk. But I did ask her to resend the email again and DM the same information plus send an agreement copy as well, just so then she would have proof. And then she indicates here, here's proof that the person blocked me. So I asked her if she unblocked you, then DM her in Messenger how you were communicating before, whatever method it was that she was communicating with her before she got blocked. But the reason to share the info in more than one format, right? So not just DMs, but also email, is to verify that that person had access to the knowledge, had access and confirmation, and was looped in on what was going to happen and when. And then this scenario up to this point will likely, which I prepared Kat for before she chose option 1, I prepared her that this will likely result in a chargeback. And even though it's a headache, she has resources to prove that now the client had blocked her, dropped off, and reneged on the agreement. So she shares, we were communicating through email. I messaged her on IG. She hadn't responded. then I've shared, if she only communicated with you via email, resend all the info, but with today's date and subject line. And then this is an example of a subject line: customer inquiry for client's name, invoice number. And the body of the text should be the same as what was sent before. That way you're just reinforcing what was already transpired, or what she already knew. There's no refund. She was charged because she's in the program, and she still retains access, right? So Kat says, well, she left all the groups, and I'm not exactly sure what she meant by that. But most people, if you're a course creator or consultant or coach of some kind, and you provide your clientele with access to resources or course material, they can leave a community, they can leave a group, they can unsubscribe from your marketing material, but it doesn't change the fact that the transaction already occurred, and it also doesn't remove their access to the course. That would be something that would need to occur where an administrator gets involved, or they don't pay and then access gets revoked if that's another trigger or an action that ends up getting set up on the back end, right? And so this part's irrelevant. If the person has left all the groups, and let's say you find yourself in a similar predicament, it doesn't change the fact the person knew they signed a contract, doesn't change the fact the person knew what they paid to get access to. So I recommended she get proof, screenshot everything, reissue paperwork. Let me move forward. She blocked her. She removed herself from the program. So I'm not sure if she means the community or what she's talking about specifically, but this part here, well, that was a choice. It's fair to have charged since she signed the agreement, still has access to the content though. It's up to you if the headache is worth it. Some people are not worth aggravation. It's mainly a lesson learned that's kind of sucks, but only one time will this happen. And then the agreements you use moving forward need to use the correct legal words that match the laws where you live, and also the rights you have if someone signs up, has all your content, and then decides to back out based on what your refund policy will be, right, in response to that. So typically when it's an intellectual property thing, you really shouldn't be giving a refund because people can't unlearn something. So I've just reinforced the same information, just focus on sending the message and email with her agreement, see above or attached, or you decide to respond Monday if you need time to message and confirm if she gets a refund. That's up to her. Then she said that the individual replied saying, while I was in your program, I only did 2 homework assignments. I attended 1 video chat. Hardly believe that's worth $4,000 regardless of what was signed. I have had anxiety involving you in your program. So again, having buyer's remorse most of the time when you sign a contract for a high-ticket course or a high-ticket coaching program, it's going to say explicitly what you can and cannot get money back for. So if there is a refund policy, it's going to say for how long, what's the percentage. It's going to say if there are guarantees. That is the proper way to make sure your contract and agreement is buttoned up. In this case for Kat, it looks like she had a no refund policy, right? Which is why she chose the option that she did. And so this person is saying, well, I don't think it's my fault that I didn't use what you provided to me. So she shares, the client says, if I had a client who did the bare minimum and decided my program wasn't best for them, I would let them go, not charge them again, and leave them alone. But unfortunately here, like, this is a misconception. This is the reason why people like this stay broke, right? And so she does have a point. She is indicating and has indicated numerous times she's a bad fit to have had Kat continue to try and prod her in the direction of let's keep working together. That's correct. That's true that this client is a bad fit for Kat and possibly other people. But the part that's the most relevant is where we are at this space and moment in time is that this person signed a contract, reneged on the contract, had access to everything, and had paid for it, and we were just following through and modeling what we had that person sign. So it was very black and white. That's the reason why Kat chose that, I would say, for the most part. Now, I can't speak for Kat. There might have been another, experience there where Kat was maybe feeling a bit gypped that this person had decided, like, hey, I don't think your program's worth it. I don't know. But Can't speak for Kat. So the person had shared, my grandfather passed away, spent last week, attending a funeral, et cetera, et cetera. I never asked for a refund. I don't believe it's fair to have charged me again. I already had left your program. It required zero work to be done on my behalf. I understand you have a no refund policy. I know exceptions can be made. I would appreciate the second $2,000 back so we can both move on peacefully. So let me just close this. So Kat is saying she's, drama queen, just understand her. And the person has an opinion, which I shared. She has an opinion about the value, but an agreement is an agreement. What step that Kat would choose is up to her. At that point in time, she is not, so the client, right? I think she is likely not a quality person. So when I say quality person, I mean quality client, just for clarity. So I'd let her file a dispute if it were me. But again, that's me. I've gone through at this point like well over 80 something of these. So I definitely would say that's, having helped clients and solving my own. It's not like I've had 80 plus disputes on my own or something. But I 100% wouldn't be emotional about this. I would just view it as a transaction. This person has had buyer's remorse. I made the effort to solve it. I followed my process. I documented everything. And let me just, kind of communicate that to the payment processor. And she didn't honor her end of the contract. She did, because here is proof that I had XYZ coaching calls. Here's the client service log modeling that she did go through the curriculum, proving that she did approach me, proving that, like, all of these things as evidence. So I've reinforced to her, Kat, we want to leave our feelings out of it. This is just business. And if Kat were to decide to do the refund, then she needs to keep it short and sweet, just the facts. The second installment has been refunded. Your access to the program has been removed as you reneged on the signed agreement. Wishing you all the best. Like, at this point, you've just got to draw a line in the sand, set those boundaries, and that's it. You're sticking to it. We don't keep going on and on and on and on about the problem. And so Kat shared, I don't want to give her a refund. Every time we speak, she gives me a different story. So then I said, well, then you can reply, name, this is not what we agreed. I've provided you a copy of your agreement. You had access to the material. Services were rendered. And then name, your Kat. So I checked on her. She said that the person asked for her money back through the bank. Now, again, big thing to remember, which we shared earlier in the curriculum, is that people in most first world countries or developed nations have the ability to, within 6 months' time, file a chargeback or a dispute, not just through Stripe, but their actual financial institution. So it might be their credit union, it might be their bank, it might be PayPal or something. Just insert whatever that is. They can go through the payment processor or financial institution, either one, and there's usually a longer duration of time than just 1 to 2 months, which most people in the info product space or online service providers are going to be providing a service that might not go beyond 6 months. So this is important for you to keep in mind. This is why evidence is so crucial. So she shares that the person had asked for that. She had sent proof of the agreement. Stripe got the money back, and she's now waiting to see their final decision. And let's see here. I'm still waiting. Oh, that had to do with where she was currently. And so here she is. It's now December at this point in time, right? So we're about a month and a half or so, maybe more like, a month and 3.5 weeks or so from the original time frame that this all started. So it's important to know that this can drag on. And you need to have, if you're going to take the position of there is no refunds, which is fine, right? You just need to make sure it's in writing. But if you're going to take that position and that's where you draw the line in the sand, then be ready with the evidence. Be ready to keep your emotion out of it. Be ready to communicate consistently the same messaging and not change it, not be reactive, and be ready to let that person know, even if it's a month to 2.5 or 3+ months later after you have interacted. If you all end on a sour note, be ready knowing that that person might file a chargeback, knowing that that person might decide that they want to part ways. And if you aren't putting the relationship first, things could go sour. Absolutely. So again, this is all going to come down to say, as long as you are leading with ethics, you're prioritizing the relationship, you're consistently setting the right expectations every step of the process from day 0 all the way to the last time that you have a final interaction or the end of your time working together, that you having evidence is going to set you up for success so that you decrease the odds or probability of having a lost dispute or a chargeback that does not result in your favor. So I hope that you ended up getting value from this. As you can see, she did end up winning the dispute and she appreciated the guidance and everything. But that, in a nutshell, is the deep dive for Kat.